And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. Glad you could join us. Don't forget about my book, man. Tom Molino, Freed Slave. Got robbed in England, 1810. It's coming out soon. If you want to get an early signed copy, drop me an email, Billy@Talkin Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. Joining me right now, Boxing Hall of Famer, my man, Larry Hazzard. What's up, Larry?
Hey, Billy. What's going on, babe?
Not too much, man. Not too much. How was Canastota, by the way?
Very good. Very good. You know, beautiful day. We beat the rain. Matter of fact, I beat the rain going up and coming back. So, worked out well. And I enjoyed myself, as always. You know, got a chance to just coalesce with a lot of the guys, and it turned out real nice.
Hey, you better be careful. You're bragging about beating the rain. There's going to be a black cloud following over you now. You know, you're going to say, what's this cloud? Every time I get out of the house or out of my car, it's raining on me. You know, but anyway, you know, I've been thinking of you, and my stomach's growling. I can't wait for the dinner, you know. Deontay Wilder, I mean, I'm going to cut to the chase. He didn't look too good against Molina. What's your thoughts?
Hey, you know, I finally got a chance. I got a chance to see the replay. Well, hey, Billy, look. This is boxing, man, and this is what's great about it. Sometimes they look good, sometimes they don't look so good. But I still got a lot of confidence in him. He got the job done, and that's what's important. You know, we don't always look the very best each time out, but as long as you get the job done, and that's what he did. And so I'm not going to lose confidence in this guy. I still think that he's the guy that's going to beat Klitschko. So we'll see. And I certainly am hopeful of being wrong if that's the case. But I feel confident that he's going to do it.
You know,
but he didn't look like we thought. I thought it would really be a much easier fight for him. But it's a learning experience. And he came through. So that's all I can say.
Right, a W is a W. But let me ask you this: do you think it was that? Do you think it was him? You know, looking at this guy just like we all did, and said, "Hey, I'm in front of my hometown. This guy is, you know, a cupcake. I'm gonna knock him out in 3 or 6 minutes, and that's the end of that." And all of a sudden, you know, 9 minutes, the guy's still there. He's hitting him with some shots that are hurting him, and you know, it seemed like he just got out of his game. I mean, what we all admired of how much he listened to everything Mark Breland was saying in the Stavern fight was like an about face. You know, Breland is telling him these things, and it was like Helen Keller was in the corner. You know, he wasn't listening to anything that Breland was saying. Do you think it was he's a young guy? Do you think it was the pressure of his hometown?
I think it was a little bit of that. I think he's getting a little bit spoiled by the success because he's a young guy. I think that he underestimated his opponent. And so I think it was a combination of all of that. But I hope that it was a learning experience for him because it shows that, you know, he can be vulnerable if he lets too much go to his head too soon. And so I think that, you know, that's what happened. You know, success has a tendency of spoiling these guys. And so I think that it's a little bit of that. But he's young, he's learning, and I think that Mark will put him in check, and I think that he'll come back from it, and you'll see a more disciplined fighter the next time out, and I think that you'll see some improvement in his arsenal also, based on this fight and on this performance.
You know, maybe you're going to not agree with what I'm going to say, but you know what I would have given him the pass on this fight. I mean, it was his first defense. It was in front of his hometown. The place was jamming and packed. I mean, it was the atmosphere. I mean, I could feel it over the TV, which usually you don't. But I think what bothered me the most, Larry, was that at the end of the night and at the end of the fight, you know, we all knew that he struggled a little bit with a guy he shouldn't have. But yet he didn't say it. He still pounded his chest, and he still, acted like, he just knocked out Klitschko. I think if he would have said, I wasn't my best, the pressure of the fans or whatever. Not that I'm looking for an excuse, because obviously that would be hypocritical. I hate when fighters make an excuse, but I'm looking for him to just own up to what we watched, and he didn't. I think I would have looked at it differently. Do you agree or disagree with me?
Well, I can understand what you're saying, but that might be a lack of maturity.
Yeah.
We live in an age now where everybody's beating themselves in the chest. I mean, who's a bigger chest beater than the guy we're going to see this weekend coming up, who's liable to get his ass beat?
I think he's gonna.
Is my opinion. Okay,
think he's gonna.
So it's the style. It's the style of today's fighter, if not today's athletes. You heard LeBron James the other night, proclaiming I'm the greatest basketball player in the world. So we look for humility in our athletes. But this generation of young athletes are not as humble as many others, So
that's
the problem.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And as soon as LeBron said that, I somewhere wherever Michael Jordan was, I think he was saying, maybe I'll make a comeback at 55. But Nicholas Walters kind of let me down. I like Nicholas Walters, but he looked ordinary. And I give credit to Mariaga. The fight was entertaining, but I think I was more disappointed in Nicholas Walters for not making weight. I mean, to me, that's a discipline issue.
Absolutely.
What do you think, man?
Well, I agree with you there. It's a discipline. It's the new age boxer, at least. But this is the new age of athletics. And I was very disappointed in Walters also. And the fact, when a fighter doesn't make weight, that tells you something about the character of that fighter, Billy. You know it, and I know it. And it shows in the performance every time, win or lose. And I think that going down the road with that type of attitude, with that lack of discipline, he's going to be a bit disappointing to us all unless it changes. But I was disappointed in him also, just as disappointed as you were.
They're talking about matching him with Vasily Lomachenko, and all of a sudden, you're talking about that fight before the fight last weekend, and now everybody's leaning towards Lomachenko in that fight.
Yeah. And rightfully so.
Yeah. So he actually made things a little tougher for himself. But I will tell you this: how sometimes when a fighter loses a fight, well, that Mariaga, all I do is I want to see him again. I thought I give him credit. He was way smaller, he seemed, and there was no quit in him. And I hope we get to see that kid again.
Well, that's the good, and that's the good part about what you're saying, because it proves once again, and hopefully these young fighters out there will get the message that a loss is not the end of a career, and that sometimes you lose and you win at the same time, because you increase your fan base based on the performance. Even though it was a losing performance, you showed certain skills that was encouraging to the fans, and they applaud the way that you went out and fought. So that should be encouraging to a lot of these young fighters growing up, and hopefully it'll change this whole paradigm and this whole thinking among fighters that a loss is the end of a career. Look at Adrien in his last performance, and look at what John David Jackson, a good trainer, did for him. He lost. He lost the fight, but he won the hearts of hundreds of thousands of more fans just on the performance, and that's a good thing for the sport. And I think that that's happening because of the quality of opposition that we're beginning to see. We're beginning to see good fights all the time. Week after week, we're seeing good competitive fights, and it's serving to bring out the best in many of these fighters, and it's helping them to develop to become better fighters. And this is what we've been saying all along. And again, I sound like a broken record, but I have nothing but praise and applause for Al Heyman for what he's doing with this PBC championships. It's just a great thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second with the fights this week. But on Friday, speaking of PBC, on Friday of last week, Ursulandi Lara fought in the main event against Delvin Rodriguez. And, here he is in this fight, and Ursulandi Lara is one of these fighters that people regard as a pound-for-pound type guy, talented. He's the full package. At the end of the fight, he's, says that I want to fight guys like Floyd and Cotto and Triple G. He wants all the best. But yet, it seemed like, I don't know, like he was thinking about, going to the bowling alley or something during the fight. I mean, it didn't even look like an exciting sparring session. He was totally outclassed poor Delvin Rodriguez, but he didn't get him out of there. I thought that he needed to stop him. If you're going to call out the premier names of this sport, you got to have what they call excitement. And I think that's the knock on Lara. What do you think?
You're absolutely right. If you want to call out the best, then you have to go in there and demolish those guys that really don't seem to be presenting much of a test to you in order for the fans to really want to see you fight the best. You got to have that Marvin Hagler type of tenacity, man. Like, this guy doesn't belong here with me. Get him out of here. But, the fight was very boring. I think I went to sleep because when I woke up, they were talking about the decision. It was a very boring fight. And so you're right in what you're saying. You want to call out the big guns, then you have to get these guys out of there so that your fan base increases and you build the enthusiasm for people to want to see you fight the big guns.
Exactly.
So I agree with you 100% on that.
On the undercard in that fight, Artur Beterbiev fought Alexander Johnson, in what I thought was an entertaining fight. And I like this kid, Beterbiev. But the reason why I'm going to bring up this fight is, last week we were talking about referees not being in the right position and stuff. And, maybe I shouldn't single them out like this, especially to you in the position you're in. But I believe that Mark Nelson is going to get a fighter seriously hurt. I mean, isn't it safer to have the mentality to stop a fight too soon than to stop a fight too late? I think Mark Nelson has been involved in too many fights where he's went to the Steve Smoger school, where he lets these guys take unnecessary punishment. What's your thoughts about this guy?
Well, yeah, that is the philosophy. That's what I've always tried to impart to these young upcoming referees. It's better to stop it a second or two or a moment too soon than too late, because now the fighter gets a chance to come again. But this guy, Mark Nelson, these guys that we seem to critique. These are the guys that are teaching the other up-and-coming officials.
I know.
This fellow, Mark Nelson, he's the guy that the ABC, I believe, sends around to do their certification of referees and giving their seminars. So, I don't know what else to say about that. For some reason, it seems to be, in the eyes of some people, a great thing to let the fighters get, beat to a helpless state, as opposed to the referee, putting safety first. So I just happen to think otherwise. So until that changes, that's what we're going to continue to see.
Listen, man, I don't know. I'll just say it. You don't have to comment, but I think that it seems like when they F up, they get rewarded. I mean, listen, it all started with Joe Cortez. everybody thought this guy was so good. He gets in the Hall of Fame. You know, that whole fight with Victor Ortiz and Floyd Mayweather, you could say what you want about. There's so many different opinions about that fight, but you know, he wasn't in position. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. And what happens? The next thing you know, the guy's in the Hall of Fame. Steve Smoger, you know, does all of the negative things that we've talked about time and time again. Next thing you know, he's in the Hall of Fame. You know, I don't know. I mean, if you get somebody seriously hurt, your next stop is the Hall of Fame, or you get to teach young guy. I don't know. It's crazy. But this week we got some decent fights. I'll save the best one for last, but a couple of ones that I have marked down that I think are going to be extremely entertaining fights. And I'm getting mixed feelings when I bring this one up. Francis Barthélemy against Antonio DeMarco. Barthélemy is a good fighter, and DeMarco, a lot of people think, you know, he's too slow, he's this, he's that, but this is a guy that, you know, he's the bottom of the ninth kind of a guy that comes back with the grand slam home run all the time. I like this fight. What do you think?
Well, that's a toss-up to me, but I think Bartholomew, you know, I think he would be favored in this particular fight. You know, he has a better arsenal, but like you say, you know, his opponent is known for coming back. He's a tough kid. So he can be tested. You know, I wouldn't bet the ranch on it.
No.
It's going to be a good fight, though. It's going to be a good fight.
But you can't count out DeMarco, man.
You can't count DeMarco out.
You know, if you're ahead up on the scorecards and it's the 9th or 10th round and you want to coast like they were telling Pedraza last week, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the knockout. Just, you know, we won this fight. That's the wrong guy to do it against. I'll tell you that.
That's right. Right.
A fight that I actually just can't wait. These last two that I'm going to ask you about, I can't wait to see. Hassam Nadam against David Lemieux. I mean, to me, this has all the makings of a really good fight. And we were talking about this yesterday. It seems like the guy who can pull himself up off the canvas in this fight and continue on is going to win this one. What's your thoughts on this fight?
I feel that way. So both of these guys are tough, man. You know, so you know the guy that can really pull himself up, he more than likely is going to win that fight because these are two real tough guys, and they come in there slinging them, man. So it's going to be a gunfight, believe me.
You know, you were talking about the PBC series, and you were mentioning earlier that we've seen some good fights, and in my opinion, we have seen some good ones, but on paper, we haven't seen what I thought were good fights. We've been treated to some really good fights until this one coming up this weekend. Shawn Porter against Adrien Broner. It looks good on paper, and I would be shocked if this fight doesn't live up to what it looks like on paper inside the ring. What's your thoughts on this one?
Hey, man, I think that Porter's going to kick Broner's ass. Okay?
So do I. And I think Broner thinks that. I think Broner, all of a sudden, when he's lost for words, I mean, there's something going on, right?
I'm going to be I'm going to say disappointed, not because I like one over the other, but I'm going to be disappointed that I didn't call it the way that I, think it should be. I really think that that this kid Porter is going to really take it to Broner, and we're going to see what Mr. Broner is made out of, come this weekend. I really think so.
I can't stand I can't stand the catch weights, but I agree with you. I think that Porter has handled this catch weight more professionally than Broner thought he would. And I wouldn't be shocked if Broner comes in over the catchweight.
Well, like Porter saying, hey, man, you want to come up to welter, come on up here.
Right.
Come on up here and get it. You got to come with this catchweight, so Porter has to come down, to satisfy Broner. Okay, and he did.
Yep.
And he's going to come in, and he's going to be on weight. And, we're going to see what's going to happen. But I believe that this fight is not going to be much of a contest. I think that Porter is going to win this fight unanimously. I really do.
there's a lot on the line for both these guys. I think that this fight, and this is what I love about this particular matchup. That's why I'm saying this is the first substantial fight. Forget the catchweight. I'm just throwing that in the garbage, even though I can't stand it. But when you look at the matchup on paper, it looks great. Then when you look a little deeper, they're both kind of in must-win situations, Larry. I mean, there's no BS. There's no excuses. We got to see the best Shawn Porter and the best Adrien Broner on Saturday night, right?
Well, see, this is what boxing is all about. See, this is what it has come down to. No more, hiding behind the curtains. No more, ducking this guy. It comes down now to, win or go home. And this is what's going to make these guys fight like their lives are dependent on it. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it's over, okay, but I do, for the loser, but I do believe that in a fight like this, the guy that loses, okay, will not have that star status anymore, and he's going to kind of have to start from the bottom again and work his way up and see if he's got anything left. And that's going to make him fodder for the next group of young guys coming up. The young Turks coming up, trying to move them out of the way. And that's the way boxing should be. That's the way it always has been. And that's what, this PBC arrangement, this championship series is forcing fighters to do. Well, it's forcing the best to fight the best, and making them meet the big challenge, or win or go home. And this is what's exciting for the fans, and this is the way it should be. Great
point, and I agree. It certainly has evolved to that since it started, and in my opinion, this is so far the best matchup we've seen. One last fight. I don't think it's going to be that entertaining, but Andre Ward makes his comeback finally after 18 months. He's fighting Paul Smith, who's not a slouch, but Andre Ward has been he's become a diva. He's been talking a lot of smack, and I think there's a lot on the line for him. I think that he needs to really put on a spectacular performance here. If he looks ordinary, I think he's going to be blasted in the media and everything else. I mean, this is a guy that feels that, he's that next guy after Floyd. When Floyd retires, Andre thinks he's the next one. He wants everything his way. He wants everything in California. And I think he's lost a lot of fans. What do you think about that and, of course, the fight?
Well, I like Andre Ward. I think he's very, very talented. I think that he's going to win this fight. And I'm gonna give him a little bit of a pass on this because, he lost. He was distracted a bit with his past management, and of course the untimely and sad passing of Dan Goosen. So I think that Andre will win this fight, but I don't want to expect too much from him coming back because he has been off a while. But I do believe that he's a very talented fighter. I believe that he is a part of the cream of the. He's top shelf, and I think once he gets back on track, we're going to see an exciting fighter. From this point on. So this will be somewhat of a test for him on this weekend, but I think he'll come through. I think that he'll come through, but there might be a little rust, but I think he'll be okay. And once he gets busy and gets back into the mix, I think we're going to see the real talent that we're used to seeing, because I always thought that Andre Ward was a very talented fighter, as good as Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, in my opinion. At
one time, I actually thought he was the pound-for-pound guy. It would be hard to make that argument now. Do you think the 18 months was at a critical time? I mean, think about his age, and I mean, we could probably argue that he let that 18 months go by, and that could have been the best time of his career if he was active during that time.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, when you're out 18 months. when you're at that point where he was, you certainly have to lose some. You're talking about a year and a half, Billy.
Right.
That's almost 2 years out of circulation. So it has to have an impact, and we'll just see how much of that he can get back. But I think with what's out there and the guys that are out there in that top level, I think that once he gets warmed up and gets back, get a couple of wins under his belt, I think he'll get back in that mix.
Well, I think it all starts Saturday, right?
Yes.
All right, my man. Well, listen, you enjoy the fights, and we'll look forward to you next week, my man.
Okay, Billy. I look forward to it myself.
All right, Larry. Take care.
Okay.
That's my man, Larry Hazzard, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey State Athletic Commissioner, telling it like it is. Hey, you know what? Who does it better than Larry Hazzard? Nobody I know. Hey, listen.